the Dean Obeidallah Show, the Dean's Report Live segment. You are my guest, where I have no one else here. It's just you. I will talk for about 10 minutes on the topic of the day. Then I will read your comments, and I hope others will read each other's comments because we all learn from each other, get smarter from each other. I get smarter from you. I hope some of you get slightly smarter from me, if that's possible. Or maybe I can make you laugh. So, look, today's topic is on the dark side a little bit. I've got to be honest, but it's an important topic. And it's more not to make anyone afraid, but I love history. I think history is a great guide for us in the future about what things are happening. And so that's why I'm taking it from that point of view, because recently I've been increasingly alarmed. I mean, look, just to remind people, we came out of December in a great place. We had just won the big election in November. We won New Jersey way over the polling. Mikey Sherrill was a 2-point lead. She wins by 13. We picked up House seats in the state legislature. Virginia, big win there. All 3 Democrats. We won races in Georgia. We didn't even know what were going on. State races, special elections. We won court elections in Pennsylvania. We won the Miami mayor's race. First time in 30 years, the Democrat won in December. We were looking good. Now we're in a darker place. And here's what I'm getting at. I'm going to read a famous line. Many of you know what it is. Many of you may have heard it and not know its origin, but it's very relevant now. And again, it is slightly dark. I've got to warn you, but it's important. That expression is the banality of evil. The banality of evil is an expression I've used before on my show. I've talked about it a little bit. There's 2 parts of it. Banality of evil, one part means the unoriginality of evil. Banality is really something that's cliche or unoriginal, and that these evil leaders do the same things because they work. But in this case, I'm referring to Hannah Arendt, and she really coined the term, and she was talking about the Nazis after the Holocaust. And she covered Eichmann's trial in Jerusalem. And what she said there, and people were upset by it, but I agree with her. She talked about the idea of the banality of evil in this scenario, meaning that people who live everyday lives, they're your butcher, your doctor, your person you see owns a small store. They are all capable of evil under certain circumstances. And I don't mean individual acts. I mean communal, big state-sponsored acts of evil. And she interviewed a Nazi officer and said that he was neither perverted nor sadistic, but rather, quote, terrifyingly normal. Terrifyingly normal. So the question becomes, how do normal people go from living their life, being your neighbor, being your coworker, to actually supporting heinous crimes against you or participating in those heinous crimes themselves? And that's what she went through. And she looked at different factors. One is the idea of social conformity. I think everyone understands that. You live in a society which moves, in this case, Nazi Germany, where everyone's on board. At least it feels that way. But the Nazis, you feel you have no choice. Other people, they're living a life that is lost. They're wandering. They're looking for something, and they find something in this new movement. Others is out of a sense of fear or propaganda, national fervor. These are all the factors she talked about. And it is why, when we're watching what ICE is doing now, its alarm bells are ringing for me, not just in the modern era, but the echoes from the past that are screaming at us. Just, history is screaming at us. And by the way, I want people to comment on the right, and I will go back and read the comments, and I hope others do as well, because I want your reaction. This is not me doing a monologue and saying, thanks, everyone. Send me $5. That's not what this is about. It's about starting a conversation. So let me go through a little bit here. Crimes against humanity don't happen in a vacuum. We all get that. One of the first activities that happens when a state or a big movement wants to commit crimes against humanity, that could be a genocide, it could be mass murder sponsored by the state, or even horrifically the Holocaust, you have to dehumanize your target. You have to make them not just less than human, but not human. And why? We all understand why. If you view this new enemy, this target, as a human being, you might not want to kill them. You might not want to treat them with cruelty, because we inherently, except for a handful of people, are not sadistic and cruel. But if you believe the propaganda that the person who's the target is not human, they're not like you, they're not like your family, it is much easier to commit upon them heinous acts. And that's the reality of what we learned from the Nazis. And it's also why every time Donald Trump has begun this broad brush of dehumanizing a group, which was his target, that many people were very alarmed. I was too, as a student of history, like with immigrants, demonizing them as criminals and rapists and invaders. Well, you're dehumanizing them so you can commit any crime you want against them. And Donald Trump in the 2024 campaign literally parroted Hitler. And you're going to remember the line when I say it. He said that these immigrants were, quote, poisoning the blood of our country. Poisoning the blood of our country. He didn't make that up. I don't know if he wrote that. Probably Stephen Miller, to be honest, wrote that and knows the propaganda of Hitler. I think he's a fan, let's be honest. So you have Trump doing that. We're all concerned. His target is migrants, demonization. But something happened earlier this year and mid this year a lot. And I wrote about it. I tried to warn people. I was deeply concerned. Donald Trump's target was no longer migrants. It was us. It was you and I. It was anyone who stands up to him. And we heard it in his rhetoric. It was deeply alarming. In July 4th, the July 4th celebrations, he spoke to an audience there and he told his supporters, and it got press. He said point blank about Democrats, I really do hate them. I can't stand them because I really believe they hate our country. Democrats, not Democratic leaders, Democrats. Us. They believe, he's telling his audience, they hate our country. Then he's got at the Charlie Kirk Memorial in September. He pushes back on Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, who talks about Charlie would forgive his enemies. Donald Trump said, no, that's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponents. I don't wish what's best for them. In October, he shares online a meme in which he labels Democratic Party the party of, wait for it, the exact words, hate, evil, and Satan. This is the president of the United States telling his supporters that Democrats, we are the party of hate, evil, and Satan. We're not fellow Americans who disagree. We're not liberals or libtards, whatever kind of light comment you want. It's dehumanization. It's painting us as a threat. And then you had Trump's allies do the same thing. Remember before the No Kings rally in October? What did Speaker Mike Johnson start saying? He called the No Kings rally the Hate America rally. Remember that? The Hate America rally. He said it was the pro-Hamas wing and the pro-Antifa wing. Those weren't just political words. That's not what you say about your political opponent in America. That's what you say when you're demonizing and dehumanizing a group who's your target. So you're laying this over and over, this groundwork. And then that brings us to the killing and murder of Renee Good. And she was murdered. We talked about it yesterday. I don't think anyone tuning in here would disagree that the ICE agent should be charged. He'll have his day in court. If he's not convicted, I can live with it, but he must be charged. But what we saw was unlike anything I've seen, in that the demonization of her and the dehumanization of her without a hint of compassion, without a sense that she's a fellow American, that a hint that she is a mother of three. They came out swiftly. Trump's administration, within an hour of her being killed, you had Tricia McLaughlin, Homeland Security top liar, and she put out a statement calling her a terrorist. It was first in writing, and then Kristi Noem calls her a domestic terrorist. Then Donald Trump says that about Renee and the ICE officer, he said, she ran him over. She didn't try to run him over. She ran him over. That's Trump's exact words. She ran him over. She didn't run him over. We saw footage from all over. There's not a hint. There's not a second when the ICE officer's on the ground. He was hit by a car. He gets knocked down. If I got hit by an SUV, I'm going to the ground. That's how it works. It's Newton's law of physics. Get hit by a massive object, you fall down. He doesn't fall down. He can stand up enough to take his gun out and shoot 3 shots. J.D. Vance, then he called it, again, this is not normal politics. He does a press conference Thursday. He says it was an act against America. He calls it an act against America. And what you're having is the same type of dehumanization, the same demonization that you're seeing with other right-wing regimes. For example, in Iran right now, what does the leaders of Iran call the protesters? They call them, quote, the enemy of God. That's what they're calling them, the enemy of God, the enemy of the regime. That's what they're really saying. And you do that so the troops don't have any hesitance to kill the people. And now we're getting reports earlier today. It might not just be 1,000 killed. It might be tens of thousands killed. And we're going to find that out. And that would be horrific. What a crime against humanity. 1,000's a crime against humanity. 20,000 of your own people. So I want to say this. There was footage today. You may have seen it. And I wish I could figure out a way to put footage in here so we can all see it and comment together that ICE officers ripping a woman out of her car who was protesting in Minneapolis. I mean, she's in her car. I don't know if she's protesting. She's in her car. She wants to go down the street. She's probably in her 20s or early 30s. And they grab her and pull out of the car. And she's yelling, I'm just going to my doctor. I'm disabled. I'm going to my doctor. And if you watch the footage, the ICE officers there are putting their hands in front of media cameras, and they're trying to block it because they don't want it to be seen. You have every right to record what's going on in public property when there's law enforcement involved. You just cannot get in the way of their actions. So everyone knows, just so you know, the law is very clear. I'll tell you this as a lawyer. You have the unabashed, definite right to videotape ICE officers, police officers doing their job on public property. If you interfere, that's a different thing. But in any event, they're trying to stop that. I saw another footage today of ICE officers. They grab a man, and apparently he didn't have proof that he was a U.S. citizen, because who carries that around? And they arrest him. And he's saying, I'm a citizen. They arrest him. So I think there's various reasons for what we're seeing this, and I want to have people's comments. I'll wrap it up here to hear from people. I think sadly we're going to see more, because what we're seeing play out is a combination of factors. One is the dehumanization of anyone who stands up to Trump. So you've got that going on. That's been a drumbeat. Number two, ICE. ICE believes they're above the law. Why? Because Trump told them they're above the law. J.D. Vance said on Thursday they have absolute immunity. This just in, there's no absolute immunity for them. You get prosecuted just like any police officer. They've told them that. Third, and did you see this? As of this morning, online, for the ICE officer who killed Renee Good, they have now raised more than $600,000. They've raised more than $600,000. So MAGA is incentivizing violence. They're saying, you shoot someone who's opposed to Trump, we will give you money. He's not been charged with a crime. He just gets that money. Like this was a reward, like a bounty. Kill Democrats, kill protesters, and we'll give you money. That may not have been their intended message, but that is their message. So you've got that. And in addition, I'll say that you had Trump today putting online that Minnesota is filled with thousands of convicted murderers, drug dealers, addicts, and rapists. And he concluded with this warning, all caps, he wrote, "Fear not, great people of Minnesota, the day of reckoning and retribution is coming." Trump is not backing down. Trump is very dangerous. The question is, what is Trump capable of? This is a man who incited a terrorist attack on our Capitol. He's capable of anything. And we all know that. The question is, what are the ICE officers capable of? And I will say, to be fair, I imagine there are many people who joined ICE years ago just to serve our nation. They served for the best of reasons. They had no desire to join to assault Americans or to assault migrants or to kill migrants or kill Americans. But now, like in the time of Nazi Germany, there's pressure. There's pressure to conform. There's pressure to obey orders. And we are seeing again a new version of what Hannah Arendt talked about, the banality of evil. And that's my concern. And overall, if you ever wondered how Germans became Nazis, we are seeing it play out in real time. And at least we're aware of history to try to stop this from going to the next steps. And as a reminder, the first group of people that Hitler put in camps were not Jews. Within 2 months of being chancellor in January 1939 in Hitler, the first groups he put in camps were political opponents, communists and socialists. Those were the first two. And then union workers after that. There's probably an overlap between that. So, all right, so that's my little thing. Now you are my guest. That's the idea. And I'm going to read as much as I can of the comments so we can all hear them. And I sincerely wish I could hear you talking instead, but this is the best we can do. At some point, they'll have the technology where you can maybe call in like on my radio show and we can talk to people, which I enjoy. All right, so I'm scrolling back here and all right, so let's see a few more people here. Greetings, Dean. AJ, good to hear you on Tom Hartman's program earlier. I was on Tom's show today, which he's my buddy. He's a great guy. Everyone should listen to Tom Hartman. All right. Judy Bernhardt says, I want Trump gone. He's ruining America. Yesterday, Renee Good was murdered for no reason. He murdered. He needs to be prosecuted, not protected by ICE. I would say at this point, people saying abolish ICE, Don't say abolish ICE without adding and prosecute ICE. It's not just abolish, it's prosecute, because even if you abolish ICE, some new agency will take those obligations, those duties, right? There is a benefit to having an agency that's responsible, professional, that if they find people who've committed crimes who are here on U.S. soil, who are undocumented, to deport them. People don't denounce that or have any problem with that. It's about prosecuting the bad ones. So if you have a new agency, it's clear. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Some Jerry Colvin says Miller is a shadow president. He's evil incarnate. Him and Musk want to bring about the Fourth Reich. Yeah, I think so. The Sherry Armstrong said Donald von Shits and Pants is an F stick. Pardon my French. I took 4 years of French. I don't think that's French, Sherry. But anyway, let's move on. I think it's funny. Trump Sherry Armstrong notes Trump claimed Ross was in the hospital in critical condition. There was no basis for that whatsoever. Again, another Donald Trump lie. And it's important to fact check lies when we're dealing with life and death. There are some things he says that are bullshit. We can ignore it. Really. Certain things like this, you've got to. Let's see what else we've got here. Rick says, right as always, Dean, wake up America. It's like everyone here is a woke, whatever term you want to use. It's about shaking our friends, and I don't mean the Trump supporters, because forget them. Think about this. 2024, most important election of our lives. 1/3 of eligible voters stayed home. Those are the people we got to reach. If we can get 10% or 20% of them out in 2026, we will win far beyond any polling, because no one's going to expect them to vote in big numbers. So let's see. Rich says instructions to stop a psychopath, cut the head off the dragon, and watch it all stop. Okay, how do we do it? But I think one day we have to talk about J.D. Vance, who I think is dangerous and uniquely evil. The idea he doesn't have charisma and that kind of stuff, all true, but he might make it up for it for the level of evil and cruelty in him. Sherry says Trump told ICE agents they were immune. That's absolutely true. Let's see what else here. Oh, from Denmark, EA, that's the first thing. We know about fascism in Europe. Denmark was occupied by the Nazis for 5 years, 1939 to 45. We understand your fear. We've been where you are. We stand with you in this fight. This is what fighting fascism taught us. Fighting fascism is hard, but the reward is great. It is time to organize locally and nationwide. So that's from someone in Denmark whose country was occupied by the Nazis, telling us fighting fascism is hard, but the reward is great. It is time to organize locally and nationwide. The good thing is that we do have the national protests with no kings. We have more coming up when it gets a little warmer, because in America we don't, although there's been a lot of protests with the ICE stuff, which has been great. The locally, I think we have some of that. Our eye has to be towards 2026, and Trump's going to do everything he can to invalidate that election and rig it. We learned yesterday, he told the New York Times, I'm not sure if people saw this, he said he regrets not having the National Guard seize the voting machines after the 2024 election, after the 2020 election. He will be trying to do that this time. There's no doubt about it. So be aware of that. And our role in that is to make people aware. We talk to attorney generals. I talk to them on my show, articles, whatever, talk about it. These are things that you can't, the more we talk about, the harder it is for them to do it under the cover of darkness and people don't know what's happening. By setting up in advance that if they do this, they're trying to rig and steal the election, it helps that narrative for us. And I'm not sure if you saw, there was polling today, and again, it's one poll. A solid majority of Americans think the ICE officer who killed Renee Good should be charged. Only about 30% of Americans support the shooting. Again, only about 30%. That's Trump's base. That's what he's down to, about 30%. That's why his overall approval ratings are around 38, 39, 40% in poll after poll. They're not going anywhere. You know, what concerns me about them, and again, this is going to sound dark, but ICE or Trump's thugs could kill any of us. And what we've learned is MAGA will defend it. And that is a parallel to the banality of evil of the time of Hannah Arendt writing her book about the Nazis, that they will defend it. We know they will defend it because we saw them defend it after Renee Good. And it's the cold-bloodedness. I mean, a real president talks about the heartbreak of the woman who was killed and the pain to her family and her 3 children. And even if he's a right-winger, if he was a human being first, he might get to, hey, I believe it could be defensible shooting. We'll let the system play out there. but there's a life lost, and this is tragic. She's a fellow American. No, we're the enemy. We're at war. I've written about this constantly in the last year. We are at war, not a war we chose, a war Trump declared on us. And it's only some Democrats that don't get that we're at war. They're not on war footing. Well, we all are on war footing. I think that's why we won in November really big. Look, the energy's on our side. All right, let's continue here. Some more. Carrie Maxwell, my friend, says everything about America is effed up. It's hard. Ray says, just stopped in here for a minute. Thank you, Dean, for your analysis. In 1 minute, Ray got that. He joined for a minute, and he got my analysis in just 1 minute. Ray is sharp. I like Ray. All right, a few more I'll read here. I'm not sure what the name, Nova origin story. We never had an empire fall in the age of constant contact with the world, an attention span of a gnat. I think this will be over soon. It'll be bad, and then we will rebuild a true democracy. We might. I mean, it can't. I just talked to Representative Latifah Simon right before we came on, Congressman from California, pre-taped it for my show, my radio show. And we were talking about in 2026 and 2028, the promise can't be a return to the status quo. It can't be elect us and we'll return things to normal. First of all, there's no normal. Second, things were not great before. So let's try to aspire to make this nation far better in issues like Medicare for all, expanding Medicare so it finally covers for our seniors dental, vision, and hearing. The idea paid family leave, getting big money out of politics. You get rid of this gerrymandering bullshit so every district is competitive every election, or as much as you can. Like there are things we can do. We have to make the status quo loser. All right, let me read a few more because we'll keep this to 30 minutes is the longest I say here. Addy says they don't care about polls, even with his base. He is in power and he's unfettered. Absolutely, Addy. There is no check on Donald Trump because the way our Constitution was written, Article 1 is the legislative branch. That was supposed to be the check. Republicans have ceded that. And some Democrats have just been quiet. But and the Supreme Court is on Trump's side. I don't want to hold out hope. I was talking to Tom Hartman today. I was on Tom's show and he talked about to me that some are saying after the primary season coming up in the spring, Republicans in the Congress are finally going to stand up to Donald Trump. And I'm like, let me take my glasses off for effect here. Are you kidding me? We've all been waiting for Republicans to come to their senses. No, they don't. They're not silent because they fear him. They're silent because they agree with him or they have no problem with it because it delivers the power they want. They're never going to come around. The only way they come around is if a few of them think it's in their best interest politically. And if you're in a red district, it doesn't matter. It's not going to help you anyway. All right, so let's read a few more here. And again, this is you are my guest. So I'm reading the comments from people because I want people to hear from others, not just around the country, but around the world. We've had people from other countries here. Addie says, I'm an atheist Jew. I'm also queer. I'm utterly frightened. I'm waiting for them to start building the gas chambers. At a different time, Addie and others, that comment would have been over the top. Now it's a realistic concern. If you deny history, we are going to be sentenced to it. And that is the lesson. I wrote an article like a little over a year ago before Trump got sworn in that the ghosts of the Holocaust are screaming at us. The ghosts of people who were perished in World War II are screaming at us to take this seriously. And on some level, I can't believe NATO and Western allies watched Donald Trump invade Venezuela, depose their leader, install someone who will give him the oil, let him steal the oil. Now talking about Greenland, killing over 100 people in the open seas without any kind of due process or any evidence presented in violation of international law. And they're just rolling their eyes. Like, well, the Greenland thing has animated them a little bit. But besides that, where's the argument that they had against Putin? That if we didn't stand up, we should have stood up to Hitler. And we didn't. And then World War II happened. We must stand up to Putin. Why are they not making that same argument about Donald Trump? At least, and I don't mean war, but at least organize sanctions against the Trump administration, organize a boycott against coming here for the World Cup, organize a boycott for not coming here for the Olympics, stage an alternative Olympics. Don't be the Nazi Olympics with Hitler there in Berlin. Don't join in these games because history look back like, what were they doing? They're seeing what Trump's about. And The one thing is Trump is not well physically. I just watched a little of his speech in Detroit. He can barely stay awake. But JD Vance, and people say, when is Trump going to die? And here's the answer, folks. You ready? I have the actual answer. It's when the devil calls him home. That's it. It's when the devil says, Donald, you did so much more than I ever could have imagined. You were amazing. Time to come home. Welcome back. I think you know your friend Jeffrey Epstein. That's how it goes. You need Hitler. All right. So what else we got here? A few more comments because I'll stop at 30 minutes. Uh, let's see. No, John Fetterman. All right. I'm not. People are actually having a conversation in the chat, which is great. I'm left out of it. I'm just a facilitator of chat now. That's my job. I'm Chat GPT. But Dean, I'm Dean. Let's see a few other people. Patricia, Ren, I know her, says we won't make it to the midterms. We're going to make it to the midterms. And I can say that with confidence because even Putin has elections. It's not, they want to have the charade of legitimacy. They want to tell the world they were elected for their ego, for the world. We will have an election. The question is it rigged? And will the results be counted? We're having an election, folks, 100% because they need it. Trump needs it. Saddam Hussein had elections. I mean, look, these guys have elections. It's not about that. It's about will they be rigged and will they be full and fair? And that's where we come in. And I think our allies, Democrats won't do this, but I have no problem. We should call on world election monitors to come into America and monitor our election in 2026 and be here the same way. Remember Jimmy Carter, God bless him, would go around in other parts of the world and developing nations. We need them here. I'm not even kidding. We do need them here. I'm not kidding. All right. John King says the only ones who can save you is you. It's true. And there was the great quote by Barack Obama during his campaign when he said the idea of we are the leaders we've been waiting for. We are the leaders we've been waiting for. We, you and I, all of us. Look, we beat Trump in 2020. He can't get over it. He's whining about it today. In Michigan, he told them, I won 3 times. They just wouldn't accept it. We beat him so badly. His ego is still stuck. He has dementia, of course. But I mean, all right, a couple more things. I'm sick of waiting. Mary Leather says, I'm sick of waiting too. If anyone can think of any other way to get Trump out that doesn't put us in prison between now and November, I'm on board. My friend Jessica Denson is doing the the removal coalition that she founded. That's great. We don't have the votes in the House, but still, Democrats should be impeaching Donald Trump for the numerous high crimes and misdemeanor. It should not be a calculation about the idea, well, we can't win in the Senate, so we won't do it. You're in Congress. You're not obligation. It's in the Constitution. If the president or any executive officer engages in high crimes and misdemeanor, you impeach them. Impeach them every week. I don't give a crap. You impeach them to wake the world up to what's going on. All right, a few more. Chat GPT, Dean. I think I'm way down on my. All right, let me go down to the bottom and go back up here. Oh, Adam, Dr. Bandy Lee is saying that JD Vance is far more dangerous. Wow, and impossible to treat than Trump. Wow. I'm going to reach out to Dr. Bandy Lee. This has been very helpful. Thank you, Adam, for bringing that out. Dr. Bandy Lee she wrote some books on Trump. She's an expert on cults and gangs and authoritarian regimes at the same time. And her point to me a little over a year ago is that when the leader who's a charismatic leader of a cult or a gang dies or is put in jail, then the coalition that brought that cult together, that crime family together, usually fractures and falls apart. That's what we're hoping for. But now she's saying J.D. Vance, according to Adam W., I'm quoting Adam W. So if Bandy Lee didn't say this, go after Adam W., saying that J.D. Vance is just as dangerous and not more. And I have to agree with her. You're not you collectively. If people don't see how dangerous J.D. Vance is because you're comparing him to how Trump is in your face over the top all the time. J.D. Vance is more dangerous because he's quieter, he's smarter, he's younger. He's like 41. I think he's 40 or 41. If he installed himself as somehow a king or a president, he could be with us for 30 years. Trump's going. I mean, look, the clock is ticking. Like, I hate to smile when I say that, but I can't hide it. Folks, I'm from Jersey. We wear our emotions on the sleeve. It brings me joy to think about that day when he's gone. We wake up in the morning, he's gone. All right. And last thing is here, Pangea says JD is controlled by very dangerous people. Yep. Peter Thiel and other billionaires, they want a lot of it. All right. So, and remember, Alini Doherty says JD Vance was picked by the oligarchs. exactly to be present. That's why they want him there. They love him for everything from crypto to giving taxes to the wealthy to and then the trade off for the base is imposing Christian Sharia law, as I call it, all over the nation. And it's not really based on Christianity, it's based on their own perverted way of looking at faith. All right. I want to thank everybody. I'm going to try to do this every day this week at 4 p.m. Next week, it's not possible to do it every day because I'm getting my apartment. I live in this room, but it's not. It's actually more painted, so that's impossible. But after this week of trying to do it every day at 4 p.m., I'm going to try to do it a few times a week because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy seeing people's comments in real time. And I want to thank everyone for joining. I hope that if you don't subscribe to my uh, my Substack here. I hope you will, and sign up for my YouTube. It's all free, of course. Everything is free I do. And I want to thank you. Have a great day. And again, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. if all goes well, or around 4 o'clock, and we'll do this with a different topic. And again, thank you for all your comments. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Karen, Sherry, Mary, Kelly, Jerry, Beth. No, I haven't heard that. All right. I'll talk to you guys.